So we're going to talk today about this thing, the alternative, independent-ish media, and whether we are falling or failing or whether we have failed. I'm going to talk about the things that have happened that have made me have these thoughts in my head, and I'm going to explain why it's important that we have this discussion. I don't want it to be particularly doom and gloom, but at the same time, I think it's important that we talk about this. So, what started this kind of train of thought happened 11 days ago with Newsbud. Newsbud had a Kickstarter that finished on June the 14th, and it didn't get funded. Now, I had funded Newsbud previously. This is the fourth Kickstarter that they've actually done, and this is the second time that they failed to get funding. The first time they tried to get like $600,000 and they failed, and the second time, and then they came back with a kind of repackaged, because it's a good idea. What they're trying to do is obviously create a platform that will match the big news dispensers of our day. And so when they had the big one that failed, and then they repackaged it into a 4-phase kind of program, which the first 2 phases got funded, and I funded them, and then the third one, which ended on June the 14th, didn't get funded. Now, that was at the time I thought, what does this really mean? But I didn't realise what was going to come. Now, it's important to have this discussion, because the second thing that happened was one of the commentators that I highly admire and respect, who does a much better job than me of this, Son of Nuo, or Son of Nuo. We're going to call him Son of Nuo just because that makes sense to me. But basically, he put out a video which, he kind of entitled it was his confessional, and he was talking about how he seems to have lost enthusiasm. It seems that he needs to kind of regroup. Now, he stopped short of like closing his channel and swearing off making any more videos. In fact, he said he probably thinks that he will still make videos in the future. But the issue is one of the effect that he's having. Now, I think that his thoughts are meaningful, and I can kind of get it. I mean, the point is that he has been let down, the way that I see it anyway. He's been let down by the fact that despite all of the recent revelations, I mean, he's been putting videos about Trump. He's obviously in America, and he's a Trump supporter, and he talks about the goings on of the deep state, etc. And obviously he's been disenfranchised, because even with the continuous revelations that come out, I mean, he's talking James Comey and the failure of the media and of Congress. The Congress is obviously supposed to be Trump supporting, Republican dominating body these days, but still they, like the media, are focused on bringing him down. And this wasn't particularly unpredictable, but in the sense that he thinks that the court of public opinion, which he can affect, he says, he can affect that, isn't meaningful enough anymore, because the media are doubling down. The Trump's alleged ties to Russia meme goes on and on and on, and even though Comey in his own testification, is that a word? When he testified, he admitted that Trump was at no stage under investigation. which in any sane world would end the debate. But no, in what we end up with is more questions about why Trump fired Comey, even though if you look back throughout the last year, there's been multiple times where Comey has overstepped the mark or done things that he shouldn't have done. So even though there was a period when Democrats, as much as Republicans, wanted Comey fired, now that Trump fired him, obviously the anti-Trump narrative demands that Trump get stick for it, even though they would have wanted it themselves. And the media in this sense is acting like the Othello character Iago. Now, what I mean by that is that they are whispering into the public's ear fake news all of the time, pretty much, and as I said, there's no amount of proof that they are reporting fake news that stops them from continuing to push this fake news agenda. And the Congress, which, as I said, is supposed to be a kind of Republican power block now, it still doesn't or isn't doing anything about Hillary Clinton. It's not doing anything about the Podestas. It's not doing anything about real things that have hard evidence that could be investigated quite easily. But still, 9, 10, 11 months later, we're still talking about Russia as if the evidence is somehow being kept from us. But really, like, if there was any substance to these investigations, if there was any meaningful evidence, then surely we would know it by now. But we don't, because there isn't anything. And so this is just a witch hunt, as I believe Trump called it. Now, the media are using their platform to bring down Trump, and there's no amount of truth that seems to be doing anything to settle the situation. And as such, Son of Nuo is definitely unenthused, and he, with the amount of time that it takes him to make his videos, he is considering leaving it all to rot, because obviously he cannot really do much in terms of making the mainstream media see reason. And this point goes all the way back to Clinton, and I mean, you may remember the big fuss that was kicked up when she said that Trump would refuse to accept the outcome of the election should he not win. Well, that's what we're witnessing now with the leftist media. You got to remember that the vast majority of the media, the mainstream media, the dinosaur, soon to be extinct media, they're doubling down, and they aren't accepting Trump as the president. The CNN are doing as much as they can to get, or they're doing as much as they can to make sure that Trump has to fight tooth and nail for any success that he has, as well as, you know, with the Kathy Griffin, etc. stories. You know, they're trying their best to kind of inspire some lone nut to go and do the job that they want done. You know, aka a recreation of JFK or good old Lincoln, right? So they aren't accepting Trump as the president. They're not letting him get on with the mandate that he received. And Stefan Molyneux kind of points to he's pointed out this, he's got at least one presentation on it, but he talks about it occasionally, and he's the Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, right? This is a book that he made, and Obama himself kind of cites it as influence. And this is a set of rules for radicals, right? One of them is which you hold your opponents to standards that you yourself are not willing to keep. And this is Clinton's quote in prime example, right? Trump won't accept the election, but the Democrats continuously undermine anything and everything that Trump tries to do. And obviously this kind of value of sportsmanship is expected of the right. You know, they were expected to accept Clinton if she won, but now that she hasn't, it's nothing that they hold dear to their own hearts. And there's no evidence for this Russia hacking the election stuff. It's been any investigation that goes on for 11 months without any evidence, it is a farce. Normally, in a true legal case, or in a true investigation, you would have at the beginning some cause for concern, and then you investigate. And you have a crime that you say you're investigating. But this is all talking broad to say where Trump's alleged ties to Russia. We're talking Russia hacked the election. We're not talking any specific crime. We're not talking any specific person. And once again, the leftist lies are that, 17 different agencies had compelling evidence, or they were convinced. But at the same time, these are the same 17 agencies that were convinced that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. So it has to be taken with a pinch of salt, right? So even though you have the Podesta brothers doing much more than Michael Flynn in terms of not disclosing money paid for certain things, they're not investigated, but Flynn is. Even though Clinton put far more national security at risk by using her own email server, that's not investigated, or it is investigated, but Comey shuts it down, and then everyone forgets about it. But obviously, somehow, someone, somewhere has an alleged connection to Trump and Russia, and we have to have, year on year investigations, as it seems that it's going that way, right? I mean, we're nearly up to a year now since it started. And all this being the case, where does this leave us? Are we failing? Are we losing? Have we lost? Was 2016 the year of the alternative media, and was 2017 the year it died? And this is an important question, because I don't presume to be... I don't even know whether I would get a seat at that table. I'm not a particularly viewed YouTuber, am I? I get 30 or 40 YouTube hits. So I wouldn't even presume to be within this group of people that are kind of make up this movement. I would like to hope so, but in a meaningful way I'm not, right? But for me, for my videos, they kind of centered around the differences between left and right. I mean, we came out of the Trump election, and we had our own election here in England, and I was interested in trying to get people to actually ask themselves what their values were and what differences there are between left and right, particularly in a modern context, and what happened when I asked meaningful questions, and genuinely asked these questions. I understand I only got a handful of views, and so it's not a particularly useful sample to say nobody answered me, but the truth is nobody answered me. The leftists that I don't know if any leftists watched, but they didn't answer. Nobody told me what they thought the answers were. And as I said, I mean, some of my videos were kind of a tongue-in-cheek jab at the left and the leftists, but overall, as I said, they never answered my questions. So this leads me, as Son of Nuo has highlighted, that they are not open to debate. The leftist media are not open to debate. They don't want their minds changed. There's no reason or evidence that is going to stump them. They're going to continue to double down, hammer home this Trump's alleged ties to Russia narrative until literally the last person. I mean, there's only probably about 5 people left watching them, but until that last person drops, then that will be the end. I mean, I'm probably one of the few YouTubers that has less views than the mainstream media by this point. So it's kind of like a middle of the table battle right now. I mean, but this is the point. So my videos, I genuinely ask these questions about what leftists believe. I made a video about questions for the anti-Brexit people, and no answer. This is a recurring theme. So whilst I was able to, in my videos, put forward theses about kind of particularly in the Trump-Clinton election, I was talking about Clinton having a kind of detractive, not bad, but a negative. You know, it was a negative campaign. She wanted to stop Trump. It was no, I want this. I want to build this. I want to make this. It was, I want to stop Trump. Whereas Trump actually talked about adding things. It was additive in that sense. We also talk about kind of realism versus idealism, and the right being realists and the left being kind of idealistic in nature. And to that effect, the right having kind of reason and evidence, and the left having kind of like wishes. It was, you know, we want the poor to be helped. We want to save the planet. You know, they're not talking about anything meaningful. There's no reason. There's no rational logic behind it. They don't give you a concerted plan. It's just, you know, Trump will end this. We want to save it. We want to end racism. We want to end sexism. We want equality. We want to take more from the rich and give to the poor, even though there's no evidence that any of this stuff can be done, should be done, would happen in reality. It's just, they just wish it, and that's the difference. But from this Son of Nuo's video, I've been able to add another one to this, right? So we're talking the ability of the alternative media, the independent media, the truth-telling media, the new media, whatever you want to call it, us, we here on YouTube, we have an ability to reflect in a way that the leftists don't. They double down. CNN carry on with their Trump's alleged ties to Russia. But we, like Son of Nuo's video, he talks about, you know, what he's thinking, like wondering if what he's doing is effective, or, you know, if he's going wrong, where he's going wrong, and is an honest reflection there. I mean, he looks unenthused, he looks depressed, he cares about truth and reason and logic, and he wants to do something meaningful and amend his ways if he can think or find out why that would be good. But as I said, the leftist media is a double down, fingers in your ears, na. Trump's a Russian agent, Trump's a Russian agent, Trump's a Russian agent, Trump's a Russian agent, kind of narrative, and that's it. That's all they get. That's all we get from them, particularly on the American side. Not so much here in England because we've got our own fish to fry, but the point is that's what you get from the left in general. I mean, you just have to look at Glastonbury and the Jeremy Corbyn chants on the queues and stuff, and it's just wishful, pointless. It's the same equivalent of the Man United fans who sing Man United when they're at the Man United football ground, right? It's pointless, it's meaningless, it's idealistic and devoid of reality and boring to us now. It's just this kind of leftist doubling down rather than a period of reflection, which they should have had after Clinton. They should have said to themselves, where did we go wrong with Clinton? Corbyn should have said, why couldn't I win the election? The leftists should have said, how can we promise the country free education? How can we promise higher benefits and that not get us elected? But no, it's just, we are right, everyone else that didn't agree with us is wrong and idiots, and that's it, and that's what we get from the left. There's no reflection, absolutely no reflection. They're not after ways to amend their behaviours, figure out where they went wrong. They just double down. They just repeat. You know, it's the equivalent of your computer freezing, and then you turn it off and you turn it on again. You don't wonder what you did wrong. You don't try again to not do that. You just turn it off, turn it on again, and it's the same stuff over and over again. So what do we need to do? I ask this once again as a reflective statement, because as Son of Nuo points out, we aren't shifting the media's kind of stupid, unevidenced catchphrases of, you know, Trump's a Russian agent or Trump's alleged ties to Russia or whatever it is. They won't focus on what they ought to be focusing on. They focus on what they have no evidence for. There's no follow-ups to all of the crazy leaks that happened in the US media. None of that. They're not interested in any of that. They're interested in this kind of alleged ties to Russia that they've been investigating for 11 months. And in any good law, in any good legal system, you wouldn't be able to do that, right? You wouldn't be able to just say, well, there's an open investigation into anything that happens. No. You would have to have a crime. You would have to be able to point out something that was done, and you will then investigate it. And eventually, as we here, the rightists, the people who believe in right-sided values, we understand kind of you need a null hypothesis, you know. You have to have a point in which you say, well, there was no effect. What we looked for didn't happen. We were wrong. That's what we do. We reflect. But they don't. So we need to ask ourselves, where are we going wrong? Are we failing? Are we dying? Have we failed? Have we died? If Newsbud can't get funded, Son of Newo's lost all enthusiasm for the fight. We're apparently almost at the edge of war with Syria now. The US, but will be dragged along inevitably, right? So things are deteriorating, and despite this being last week being a week of the solstice, it feels like a darker world that we live in now. And as I said, it wasn't to be unexpected, but at the same time, I can understand why Son of Nuo has lost his verve for the fight, because how many more times can Comey come out and say that Trump has never been under investigation before the Trump's alleged ties to Russia, ends? Before they allow him. I mean, obviously they're not going to allow him to do what he wants, but there has to be a point where things move on. But we just seem to have this Groundhog Day of, no matter what new information is brought to the table, usually in favour of Trump, we end up with the same memes and newspaper headlines, and Comey basically completely vindicates Trump, but then we end up saying, well, Trump obstructed justice by sacking him, and come on, this guy had so many reasons to get sacked. And yeah, it's just Groundhog Day. So yeah, we need to ask ourselves, how can we attack this better? How can we win again? How do we carry on winning? I mean, it's too simple to just copy them. We aren't that way inclined to just close our ears and shut off reality. We actually reflect. And we obviously need to keep doing that. And we can't give up, because obviously if you give up, then you may as well just start digging your grave, right? So, yeah. Instead of talking to you leftists who never respond to me anymore anyway, or have never responded to me, I'm going to ask you rightists, what do you think we should do? What should we do? How should we go about this? How do we stop our media dying or getting bored and giving up? How do we carry on fighting the good fight when the soon-to-be extinct dinosaur media just carry on with their stupid tropes that we all... I mean, once again, I'm sure they even know that it's a lie, but they're not getting socially punished for it. Or they're not getting any more socially punished than we can socially punish them. So we need to think about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, because this is what our gift is. Our gift is to reflect, to analyse, to look at things critically, logically, and then make a plan. And we can win. We have won. In 2016, and 2017 seems to be like a year of stalling, and we need to see what we can do. So thank you. Let me know.